The news is as shocking as it is mysterious. 47 trucks, yes, 47, loaded with weapons, intercepted at the border under orders from Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso's transitional leader. The discovery has sent shockwaves across West Africa and beyond, raising one critical question. Who are these weapons really for? Let's unpack this unfolding story. It all began when border patrol units, acting under the direct authority of Captain Traoré, stopped a suspicious convoy trying to enter Burkina Faso. What they found inside wasn't humanitarian aid or industrial equipment. It was a massive cache of arms. Guns, ammunition, and military-grade equipment filled truck after truck. The size and scale of the seizure suggest that this wasn't an isolated incident or a rogue shipment. This was part of something much bigger. Official reports confirmed that the weapons were not registered through any diplomatic or intergovernmental channel. There was no declaration, no inspection, no clearance. They were being transported covertly, apparently under the radar. But Traoré's government wasn't caught sleeping. Instead, they were prepared and they acted. So who was behind this? And more importantly, who were these weapons intended for? One theory immediately jumped to the forefront: foreign-backed rebel groups. Burkina Faso has been battling extremist insurgencies for years. Jihadist movements linked to both Al-Qaeda and ISIS have plagued the Sahel region, taking over territories, destroying infrastructure, and killing thousands. These groups thrive on instability, and they rely heavily on smuggled arms to keep their operations running. Could this massive shipment have been headed to them? It's very possible. But there's another layer to this. Captain Traoré himself has taken a firm, nationalist stance since coming to power in 2022. He's been vocal about reducing foreign influence, especially from France, the former colonial power. His administration has expelled French troops, suspended military agreements, and turned toward new partnerships, including with Russia. Some analysts believe this weapons shipment may have been an effort to destabilize his government, to create the kind of chaos that would justify international intervention or weaken Burkina Faso's sovereignty. Others suspect these weapons could have been destined for mercenary factions or private militia groups. In recent years, private armed groups have become increasingly involved in conflicts across Africa, whether serving government interests or operating independently. These groups often exist in legal gray zones, and they're always hungry for more weapons. But what makes this case particularly concerning is the lack of transparency surrounding the shipment's origin. No country has stepped forward to claim responsibility. The trucks reportedly had foreign plates, but those details haven't been made public. It raises a chilling possibility. Was this an operation backed by a state actor working through third-party channels? Could an allied nation or a supposed ally be quietly fueling violence behind the scenes? Captain Traoré's decision to seize the trucks wasn't just bold, it was strategic. It sends a clear message. Burkina Faso is no longer a passive player. His administration has stated that the country will not be used as a transit route for weapons that could be used to destabilize the region. But this move also places Traoré in a precarious position. He has now directly challenged unknown but powerful interests. And if these weapons were intended to arm groups meant to overthrow or undermine his leadership, he may have just prevented a larger conflict. But at what cost? Diplomatic tensions are rising. Intelligence agencies across the region are on high alert, and citizens are beginning to ask the same question we're asking today. Who is trying to arm conflict in West Africa, and why? Traoré's critics accuse him of being too radical, too anti-Western, too reliant on alternative alliances, but his supporters see this as proof that he's willing to stand up for his country, against both terrorist insurgents and shadowy geopolitical players. By intercepting these 47 trucks, he may have saved countless lives. But the story doesn't end there. This seizure could be just the tip of the iceberg. If 47 trucks were caught, how many more have passed undetected? How extensive is the arms pipeline running through the Sahel? And more alarmingly, who is funding it? In a region already destabilized by poverty, conflict, and foreign interference, the flow of illegal arms acts like gasoline on fire. For peace to take root, the pipeline must be exposed and dismantled. As investigations continue, more information is sure to surface. But for now, the world is left with a riddle wrapped in iron and gunpowder. One thing is clear: this isn't just about Burkina Faso. This is about the future of an entire region. Whoever was meant to receive those weapons, whether terrorists, mercenaries, or foreign-backed agents, they've just been dealt a major blow. And the man behind that blow is Captain Traoré. What happens next could reshape the security landscape of West Africa. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. And if you want more in-depth coverage of geopolitics, military developments, and global power dynamics, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and leave your thoughts in the comments. What do you think these weapons were for? And who do you believe sent them? Until next time, stay informed, stay aware. And while the world is still trying to digest the shock of 47 weapon-laden trucks seized in Burkina Faso, another story is unfolding. This time in the heart of Niger, a country that's been making headlines since the dramatic coup that shook West Africa in 2023. Niger's uranium, long the silent prize of global powers, is now becoming the center of a new Cold War-style tug-of-war. For decades, Niger quietly supplied a significant portion of Europe's uranium, fueling nuclear power plants across France and beyond. In fact, at one point, nearly one-third of France's nuclear fuel came directly from Nigerian mines. But now, with the fall of the pro-Western government and the rise of a military junta, that supply line is no longer secure. The new leaders in Niamey have made one thing very clear: Niger's resources are for Nigerians first. This shift in policy is sending ripples through international markets. Uranium prices are climbing. Western energy companies are panicking, and mining operations once protected by foreign military presence are being either nationalized or suspended. But while the West is pulling back, new players are stepping in, fast. Russia has reportedly offered to assist Niger with mining technology, infrastructure development, and, of course, military support. China, too, is positioning itself for access, quietly strengthening diplomatic ties and signaling readiness to invest billions in long-term extraction deals. For these global powers, it's not just about uranium, it's about influence. But here's the dangerous part: Niger's instability is becoming a battleground of ideologies. On one side, countries that champion Western democratic models, and on the other, powers that promote centralized control and non-interference doctrines. Niger, much like Mali and Burkina Faso, is now walking a razor-thin line between self-determination and being pulled into a new proxy struggle. And who loses when foreign powers clash over African soil? It's not the investors, and it's rarely the governments. It's the ordinary citizens, villagers displaced by mining projects, children growing up near toxic waste zones, and communities caught in the crossfire of yet another regional conflict. But this time something feels different. The leaders of the new Sahel Alliance, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, are saying no. No to being pawns. No to being pipelines. No to being resource banks for richer nations. Their voices are growing louder, and whether you agree with their approach or not, one thing is certain: Africa is rewriting its own narrative. The days of quietly accepting backroom deals and lopsided trade agreements are coming to an end. What we're witnessing isn't just a regional shift, it's a continental awakening. And the rest of the world? They're being forced to pay attention. Will this lead to more coups, more sanctions? Or could it finally force a reckoning, a new era where African nations negotiate as equals on the global stage? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure: what's happening in Niger is not just about uranium, it's about power and who gets to wield it. If you found this story eye-opening, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more deep dive coverage, and drop a comment below. Is the West losing its grip on Africa? Or is this just another chapter in a very old playbook? As Burkina Faso and Niger shake the status quo, Mali is digging in, hardening its stance against foreign interference, and taking some of the most radical steps we've seen in years. Just recently, Mali's transitional government officially announced its full withdrawal from ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States. Let that sink in. One of the founding members of ECOWAS is walking away. Why? According to Colonel Assimi Goïta's administration, the reason is simple. ECOWAS no longer represents the interests of the people. The regional bloc, originally created to promote economic integration and peace, has become, in the eyes of Mali's leadership, a tool of Western political pressure, especially after the sanctions imposed following the 2021 coup. Those sanctions were harsh. Borders were closed, assets frozen, and Mali's economy was suffocated overnight, all in the name of restoring democracy. But Mali's leadership called it something else: economic warfare. And they're not alone. Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali are now pushing forward with the Alliance of Sahel States, a new defense and cooperation pact aimed at bypassing ECOWAS entirely. This alliance isn't just symbolic, it's strategic. It allows them to coordinate military efforts against terrorism, pool resources, and most importantly, create a regional bloc independent of Western influence. It's a move that has global implications. For decades, ECOWAS has operated with strong backing from France, the United States, and international financial institutions. Now its authority is being openly challenged. The question is, can this new Sahelian alliance survive the geopolitical pressure it's bound to face? Mali, like its neighbors, has also welcomed Russian support, military advisors, equipment, and likely private contractors linked to the Wagner Group. This has drawn sharp criticism from Western governments who accuse Mali of cozying up to authoritarian regimes. But Goïta and his supporters see it differently. They say the West had decades to help us defeat terrorism, and failed. Now we're trying something different. And the results? It's complicated. Terrorist attacks are still a major threat, especially in rural regions. But recent months have seen a reduction in direct assaults on key urban centers. Some locals say they finally feel that the military is fighting for them, not just carrying out orders from foreign commanders. At the same time, Mali's decision to expel the UN peacekeeping mission, MINUSMA, sent another clear signal. We will solve our problems ourselves. That's a bold move in a country still plagued by internal conflict and jihadist violence. But perhaps that's the point. Mali, like Burkina Faso and Niger, is trying to reclaim its dignity, even if it means facing hardship, isolation, or economic pain. And the message they're sending to the rest of Africa is powerful. We're done being managed. It's a message gaining traction, especially among younger generations disillusioned by years of poverty, corruption, and broken promises made under the banner of democracy that never truly delivered. But here's the looming danger. As these countries move away from traditional alliances, they may become increasingly dependent on new foreign powers, China, Russia, Turkey, who bring their own interests, their own conditions, and their own forms of influence. Is this really independence or just a change in masters? It's a question Mali must grapple with, and so must the rest of Africa. Still, this new political era unfolding in the Sahel is unlike anything we've seen in recent history. For the first time, a bloc of nations is not just resisting foreign control, they are actively redefining what sovereignty looks like in the 21st century. And the world is watching. Will Mali's rebellion spark a broader continental shift? Or will it collapse under the weight of economic isolation and asymmetric warfare? We're witnessing history in real time. If you're still with us, now's the time to like, share, and subscribe for more coverage of West Africa's great transformation. Drop a comment. Do you believe Mali made the right decision in leaving ECOWAS? And where do you think this road leads? Once seen as the political puppeteer behind much of West Africa's post-colonial architecture, France is now facing a dramatic collapse of its influence across the Sahel, and it's happening in real time. In just under 2 years, France has been expelled from Mali, humiliated in Burkina Faso, and forced out of Niger, all countries where French troops were once stationed, under the banner of counterterrorism. Operation Barkhane, the flagship French anti-terror operation launched in 2014, has now ended in disgrace after nearly a decade of growing resentment. The message from these countries is crystal clear. France, go home. But how did we get here? To understand this fall from grace, we have to go back to the early 2000s, when the Sahel began spiraling into chaos. Terrorist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS were expanding rapidly. France stepped in, positioning itself as a protector, a partner, and a peacekeeper. But over time, it became clear that France's presence was not neutral. Despite billions spent and thousands of troops deployed, terrorism spread. Civilians were caught in the crossfire. Drone strikes and raids often hit the wrong targets. Local populations began asking, are these foreign troops here to protect us, or protect foreign interests? And then came the deeper questions. Why do our currencies still depend on French control? Why do French companies extract gold, uranium, and oil from our soil, while our people live in poverty? One by one, these questions turned into protests. Protests turned into movements. Movements turned into military coups. And each coup had a common enemy: France. In Mali, protesters burned French flags. In Burkina Faso, they waved Russian ones. In Niger, citizens surrounded the French embassy, demanding its closure. And in every instance, the same chant echoed through the streets: down with imperialism. But this is more than emotion, it's geopolitical shift. It's not just about military bases or economic ties, it's about identity, history, and memory. France's colonial past, once glossed over by diplomacy and aid packages, is now front and center, and it's being rejected, loudly. So how is France responding? With awkward hesitation. President Emmanuel Macron has tried to rebrand French-African relations. He's made speeches acknowledging colonial abuses. He's promised a more equal partnership, but on the ground, none of that has translated into trust. In fact, it's often perceived as too little, too late. And now, with countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger turning to Russia, China, and even Turkey for military and economic partnerships, France is scrambling to reposition itself elsewhere, like in coastal West Africa or the Central African region. But that won't be easy. Because what's happening in the Sahel is not just a rejection of France, it's a rejection of a system that allowed one country to dominate another long after the flags came down. In fact, some experts now say we're witnessing the end of Françafrique, the informal but deeply entrenched network of political, military, and economic control that Paris maintained over its former colonies since the 1960s. And if Françafrique is dead, then the implications are massive, not just for France but for Europe, the US, and the global order. Because where there is a power vacuum, someone will fill it. Enter Russia, with weapons and military trainers. Enter China, with infrastructure and no political strings. Enter a new generation of African leaders who say they want partnerships, not patronage. The stakes couldn't be higher. Will France adapt to this new reality, or will it cling to old models of influence? Will African countries find true sovereignty, or just swap one master for another? And will the people whose voices are growing louder with each passing day finally get the dignity, security, and prosperity they've been promised for generations? The answers are being written right now, on the streets of Bamako, Niamey, Ouagadougou, and beyond. This is not just politics, it's history in motion. If this story hit you hard, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more geopolitical deep dives, and drop a comment. Is France gone for good in West Africa, or will it find a new way to return? Stay aware. Stay informed. Because this isn't just about Africa. It's about the future of the global balance of power.